I need you to understand something before I start. This didn't happen all at once. There was no single jump scare, no sudden monster, no moment where I could clearly say, that's when everything went wrong. It was quieter than that, slower, like something that waited for me to notice it, and the worst part, it only spoke when I was alone. The first time I heard it, though, the first time, I didn't even think of it as a voice. It was late, not extremely late, maybe just after midnight. The kind of time when the world feels paused but not fully asleep yet. Cars still passed occasionally. A dog barked somewhere far away. My phone screen was the only real light in the room. I was lying on my bed, scrolling without really reading anything. Just killing time until sleep decided to show up. That's when I heard my name, not loudly, not clearly, just enough for me to notice. It came from behind me. I remember freezing, thumb hovering over the screen, my heart skipping in that slow, heavy way it does when something feels off but not dangerous yet. I turned around, nothing. My door was closed. My window was locked. The room looked exactly the same as it had 5 seconds earlier. I laughed quietly to myself and shook my head. Sleep deprivation, I muttered. That's all. I went back to my phone, but something had changed. The room felt fuller, not crowded, just occupied. Like when you walk into a room where someone was just standing a moment ago, and you can still feel the space they took up. I ignored it. I wish I hadn't. Why I was always alone. Here's something important you should know about me at that time. I spent a lot of time by myself. Not because I had no friends, not because I hated people. Life just worked out that way. My schedule was different from everyone else's. When others slept, I was awake. When they were active, I was usually resting. The house was rarely empty, but it was often quiet. And quiet is dangerous. Quiet gives space for thoughts. Quiet gives room for sounds that shouldn't exist. That night, after the first whisper, I didn't hear anything else. I eventually fell asleep and woke up the next morning feeling stupid for being scared. But the next night, that's when it spoke again. The rules started forming the second time. I was sitting in the living room, lights off except for the television glow. The sound was low, barely audible, more background noise than entertainment. I was half listening, half dozing. That's when the voice said my name again, clearer this time, right next to my ear. I jumped up so fast, my heart slammed into my ribs. I spun around, scanning the room. Every shadow suddenly sharp and threatening. Nothing. No one. The hallway was empty. The kitchen dark, the front door locked. I stood there, breathing hard, listening silence. That's when I noticed something strange. The television had paused. Not frozen, paused. The remote was still on the table where I'd left it. I didn't touch it. That night I started paying attention. And that's when I realized the pattern. The voice never spoke when someone else was around, not once. I tested it without meaning to. When footsteps passed outside my door, nothing. When I heard someone cough in another room, silence. When the house was active, dead quiet, but the moment I was truly alone, it returned. What the voice sounded like. People always ask this when I try to explain it. Was it deep? High-pitched? Male? Female? None of those questions really fit. The voice didn't sound like it came from a mouth. It sounded like a thought that didn't belong to me, close, intimate. Right inside that space where your inner voice lives. But clearly not yours. It didn't shout. It didn't whisper dramatically. It spoke the way someone does when they don't need to raise their voice because they know you're listening. At first, it only said my name, over and over, never angry, never urgent, patient. That patience scared me more than anything else. I stopped telling myself it was nothing after about a week. I couldn't lie to myself anymore. This wasn't stress. This wasn't imagination. It followed rules, and anything that follows rules is real in some way. I started staying in rooms where I could hear other people moving around. I left doors open. I played music louder than usual. I kept the television on even when I wasn't watching it. The voice hated noise. It never spoke over sound. If the room wasn't quiet enough, it waited. That was another rule. The first full sentence, the first time it said more than my name, I was in the bathroom. I remember this clearly because I had locked the door. Because I felt safe, the fan was off. The lights were bright. The mirror showed me exactly as I was. Tired eyes, tense shoulders, trying to look normal. I leaned over the sink and splashed water on my face. When I looked back up, the voice said, "You hear me better when you stop pretending." I dropped the towel. It didn't echo. It didn't bounce around the room. It came from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. I stared at my reflection, waiting for something to change. Nothing did. But I knew, deep down, I had crossed a line. It wasn't just calling anymore. It was responding. What it knew about me. After that, it started talking more. Not constantly. Never rambling. Short sentences. Carefully chosen words. It knew things. Things I had never said out loud. Thoughts I'd only half formed. Fears I'd never named. "You stay awake because sleep feels unsafe," it said one night. "You listen for sounds because silence scares you," it said another. Each time, it waited until I was completely alone. No footsteps, no voices, no background noise, just me and it. I tried to record it. This is the part where I tried to be logical. I grabbed my phone and set it on the table one night. Voice recorder running. I sat still, barely breathing, waiting. The room was silent. Minutes passed. Then the voice said softly, "That won't work." I nearly threw the phone across the room. I checked the recording afterward. Nothing. Not static. Not interference. Just silence. The mirrors became a problem after that. I noticed something else. Whenever the voice spoke, mirrors felt wrong. Not distorted. Not reflective in a strange way. Delayed. Like my reflection was taking a fraction of a second longer to copy me. I tested it, moved my hand quickly, turned my head fast. The reflection caught up, but that feeling never left. One night the voice said, "You look for yourself to make sure you're still there." I covered the mirror with a towel after that. The night it asked a question. Up until then, the voice only stated things. It never asked. Until one night, sitting alone in my room, lights off, door closed, no sound anywhere in the house, it said, "Do you know why I only speak when you're alone?" My mouth went dry. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. He continued, "Because you listen then." That was when I realized something terrifying. It wasn't trapped with me. I was giving it access. What changed inside me after that night? I started to feel watched, not followed, observed. Like something was learning me. I caught myself pausing before thinking certain thoughts. Stopping myself from speaking out loud, even when no one was around. I didn't want to feed it, but the more I resisted, the more patient it became. And patience, when it comes from something unseen, feels like a threat. The final warning, the last thing it said before everything escalated, happened on a night I'll never forget. I was alone. Completely alone. The house silent in that deep, heavy way that presses against your ears. The voice came closer than ever before, and it said, "You won't always be alone, and when you're not, I won't be able to speak anymore." Pause. Then, "So I need you to listen now." That was the moment I understood something horrible. The voice wasn't haunting me. It was preparing me, and whatever came next was already on its way. End of part 1. After that night, I stopped pretending this was something I could control. The voice didn't speak again immediately, and somehow that silence was worse, because now I knew it could choose when to talk. The waiting days passed. Nothing happened. No whisper, no name, no strange sentences that crawled into my thoughts and refused to leave. At first, I felt relieved. I told myself maybe it was over. Maybe whatever had been happening had finally lost interest. But deep down, I knew better. It wasn't gone. It was waiting. I started noticing how quiet my life actually was. Even when people were around, there were gaps, moments between sounds, where everything seemed to hold its breath. Those moments stretched longer than they should have. I filled them with noise, music, television, fans running in empty rooms, anything to keep silence from settling too deeply. Because silence wasn't empty anymore, it was occupied. Other people started feeling it. The first sign that this wasn't just my problem anymore came from my sister. We were sitting in the living room one evening, television on, lights bright, everything normal. She suddenly paused mid-sentence and frowned. "Did you hear that?" she asked. My heart jumped. "Hear what?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She tilted her head, listening. "I don't know. It's like the house just got really quiet, like when the power goes out, but it didn't." I forced a laugh. "You're imagining things." But she didn't laugh back. Later that night, my dad mentioned the same thing. "This place feels weird lately," he said casually. "Like it's listening." He meant it as a joke. I didn't. The voice tried to break the rule. The voice always followed its rules. Only when I was alone. Only in silence. Never recorded. Never overlapping sound. Until one night, it didn't. I was in my room, door open, music playing softly through my phone. Someone was moving around down the hall. I could hear footsteps, safe. Then underneath the music, I felt something. Not heard, felt pressure. Like someone standing too close. The voice tried to speak. It didn't fully form words. It stuttered like a broken signal. Sten. I slammed my phone volume up. The pressure vanished instantly. I stood there shaking, realizing what had just happened. It was trying to break its own rules and failing. The changes in the house after that, the house started behaving differently. Doors didn't just creak, they hesitated before moving, like they were deciding whether to open. Lights flickered, but only when no one was directly looking at them. Rooms felt slightly larger on the inside than they should have. I started avoiding mirrors again, because now, sometimes my reflection didn't copy me at all. It just watched. What the voice really wanted the next time it spoke clearly. I was completely alone again. Middle of the day, everyone gone. Sunlight streaming in, making everything feel safe. That's when it said, "You're running out of quiet." I swallowed hard. "What do you want?" I whispered. The voice paused, like it was considering how much to say. "I want continuity," it replied. That word stuck with me, continuity. It explained slowly, carefully. It existed in gaps, in pauses, in moments where nothing interrupted thought. Humans, it said, were loud creatures, always filling silence, always drowning themselves out. But you, it continued, leave doors open. That's when I understood something horrifying. It wasn't attached to the house. It was attached to me. The dream started sleep, stopped being an escape. I dreamed of rooms without doors, hallways that folded back on themselves, mirrors that reflected rooms I wasn't standing in, and always, in the background, a voice that didn't speak, but waited. I'd wake up exhausted, feeling like I hadn't been alone even in my dreams. One morning I found something written on a fogged bathroom mirror. 3 words, "You hear me." I wiped it away instantly. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. When I tried to leave, I thought distance might help. I packed a bag and went to stay with a friend for a few nights. His apartment was small, loud, constantly active. The first night, I slept better than I had in weeks. The second night, I felt it again. Not the voice, the absence of it. A pressure building like something being held back. On the third night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., the power went out. Silence flooded the apartment, and for the first time, the voice spoke somewhere unfamiliar. "You brought me somewhere new," it said. That was when panic finally took over. The confession: I told my friend everything. I expected disbelief, laughter, concerned looks. Instead, he went quiet. "I thought it was just me," he said eventually. My stomach dropped. He explained that for weeks he'd been hearing things when he was alone. Not a voice exactly, but the sense of being addressed, of being noticed. "You're louder than me," he said slowly. "I think it likes you more." The power came back on. The voice didn't speak again that night, but I knew what it had learned. It didn't need just one listener. The true nature of the voice, the next time it spoke to me, it finally explained itself. Not fully. Just enough. It wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a demon. It wasn't alive in any way that mattered. It was a pattern, a response, something that formed wherever sustained silence and awareness overlapped. Most people drowned it out. I didn't. You made room, it said. And now it was spreading. The last thing that happened before everything broke was small. Too small to matter on its own. I was sitting in a crowded room, people talking, laughing, noise everywhere. And underneath it all, I heard my name, clear, confident, not waiting for silence anymore. That was when I realized the rules were changing. And if the voice no longer needed me to be alone, then whatever came next wouldn't wait for quiet.